people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. Recapping the Night of the Samurai that, if you were in the United States, was really the dawn. Since the entire card started at the crack of dawn, serious reservations about whether or not this was value for money, because even if you found the card entertaining, they were still forcing you to pay for fighters that you don't normally have to pay to see. In the co-main event, we saw three-weight world champion Junto Nakatani make his super bantamweight debut in what will be his fourth weight class, and he labored. He struggled. He started off all right, beating those feet, moving around, getting punches in. Sebastian Hernandez's approach was simple, albeit persistent, and thus effective in the later rounds. So as stated, Junto Nakatani started off this fight all right, moving around, getting punches in, penetrating the guard, and it feels like at some point Sebastian Hernandez, having felt Junto Nakatani's power, made a decision to turn up, that he's felt what this guy's got, and he can take it. He's gonna dial it up a notch. Because Junto was landing punches. He was landing punches upstairs, body shots downstairs, with some consistency, none of which seemed to slow down Sebastian Hernandez. Uppercuts up the middle. He landed a lot of uppercuts. So what is normally a very damaging punch for an oncoming fighter fighting at a slight crouch, tucked behind the guard, uppercuts up the middle usually elicit a lot of respect, where Sebastian was able to take Junto's. Keep on coming. And so in the mid-rounds, I started to sense a shift, waiting for Junto Nakatani's power to take effect, where it seemed to have no effect on Sebastian Hernandez, who was turning it up, crashing the pocket, throwing punches in bunches, even if many of them weren't exactly getting in, if many of them were landing on the arms and gloves of Junto Nakatani, who mostly did a good job of protecting himself. He was just so busy and so persistent. You sense the shift. That maybe they picked the wrong guy for Junto to make his super bantamweight debut. Maybe they matched him a little bit too tough, because now the Inoue fight looks in jeopardy. Junto doing his best to use the ring, move around, create space, and Sebastian not giving him that luxury, crashing the pocket time and time again, forcing Junto to trade, exchange on the inside. Good exchanges, and it's not like Junto wasn't winning those exchanges. A lot of the time he was, it's just the punches at 122 were not having the effect they have at 118, not having the same firepower. At this new weight, Junto had to fall back on his movement and his boxing and his accuracy, creating space and countering Sebastian as he made his way in. But not having the same firepower at this new weight, and Sebastian being a tough customer, durable, it made the fight physically taxing for Junto. He was tired. So I would say that Junto Nakatani won most of the first half, and Sebastian Hernandez swept a few rounds in the second against a noticeably tired fighter at a new weight who just doesn't land with the same authority, having a badly swollen right eye almost completely closed at the very end of the fight. 7-5 to a draw is how I saw it. 7-5 to a draw for Junto, though even if you think he won, he only won by the skin of his teeth. He was in tough. Real tough. Maybe too tough to the point where it hurt the mystique and marketability of what's supposed to be the Inoue fight. It's the first time I've ever seen Junto look this human and labor this much, though naturally, that's gonna happen at your fourth weight. It could. It happens to a lot of fighters. It's for that reason I wouldn't nitpick Junto's performance so much as accepting the realities of a fighter moving up in weight. You're not always gonna look good. Because Junto's the decorated fighter and the one with the profile, most people are gonna allude to him looking bad, where some part of it is Sebastian looking good. Sebastian being better than advertised. He's a pressure guy. That's what he had Junto under. A lot of pressure. Pressure fighters are gonna force you to fight and put you in a situation to where either you're gonna knock them out or they're gonna knock you out, because if you don't have the power to keep them off, it's gonna be a long night. It was a long night for Junto. That's the most human I've ever seen him, and it's no coincidence that it was in his super bantamweight debut. I guess a lot of us felt that he's already such a big bantamweight, surely his power will carry up to super bantamweight, because Inoue's did, and he's a smaller guy than Junto.
Junto's punching power now finds itself under question after what is a super bantamweight debut.
It's a big part of the reason so many looked at Junto as being a threat to Naoya Inoue. He was the only fighter anywhere at or around these weights that possessed any semblance of the power that Inoue has, but I guess not at 122.
Scraped a win.
As stated, it looked like 7-5 to a draw, to where if Junto won this thing, he couldn't have won it by much. Congratulations to him for managing to stay an unbeaten fighter in the main event.
Inoue versus Picasso.
I didn't think this fight would go the distance for a number of reasons, because for Alan Picasso, this was a huge step up in class, because he had never fought somebody the caliber of an Inoue. In reality, he hasn't fought anybody the caliber of Inoue's opponents, in tandem with Alan not having made the weight in his last 3 fights. He's been fighting just north of Super Bantam at Feather. I figured that if he's forced to make Super Bantam,
In tandem with Inoue's power, he won't hear the final bell.
so him going all 12, being able to take Inoue's punch, I was a little bit surprised, but there's no question that he was thoroughly outclassed, that he was never in this fight.
He didn't have any moments.
I didn't have him winning a single round, so if nothing else, it was a display of Inoue's boxing, that he's not just a puncher. This performance was akin to the performance we saw before this in the MJ Akhmadalia fight, to where Inoue doesn't have to knock you out to thoroughly beat you.
Because there's no question he beat David Allen Picasso. He was sharper, more accurate, quicker to the draw.
Each round was similar to the last, to where the fight in its entirety was a blur. It happening so early in the morning doesn't help. Though I wouldn't nitpick Inoue not stopping this kid, not knocking him out. He is very big for the weight, and young.
25.
Seemingly taking the punches well, though not being all that ambitious in his approach. Allen didn't seem to go out there with the same intentions as, say, Ramon Cardenas, who gave it everything he had, rolling the dice to land big punches. David Allen Picasso was a bit more measured. Credit to him for showing some durability and some ability to protect himself, but that's about it. He was never in this fight.
Always the perfectionist, the tired Naoya Inoue promised to improve after decision win over David Picasso. He wasn't happy with his performance,
saying that it wasn't good enough and he should have done better. He was asked if he would fight Junto Nakatani next year after Nakatani controversially won on the undercard. Both of us had a very good win tonight, so for the next year, we will decide what to do, Inoue replied. But for the Japanese fans, you should expect something very good. It was a polished display from one of the sport's very best fighters, who is now 32-0 with 27 KOs, and it marked Inoue's 4th win of a prolific 2025, following victories over Mudajan Akhmadaliev, Ramon Cardenas, and Yi Jun Kim. It also saw Inoue go to the scorecards in consecutive fights for the first time in his career, as Picasso fell to 32-1 with 1 draw and 17 knockouts. Of fighting 4 times this year, the 32-year-old Inoue said, "I'm really tired. I think I will rest for a while. I'm going to be much better next time."
Is it possible that in being as active as he was this year, he's spreading himself thin?
I guess that's a possibility, but we're still talking about a fighter who fought 4 times this year, who's now at his 4th weight, taking on a bigger, younger fighter, and won every single round. In doing so, there is such a thing as nitpicking.
He won every single round. All he didn't do was knock the guy out.
Suppose some critics in America who were looking for something negative to say will immediately latch on to this.
Immediately after the fight, I noticed that the good people at the Boxing Voice decided to go live with a headline that read, "Naoya Inoue goes 12 rounds with a prospect. Double standards in boxing."
Double standards?
What's the double standard?
Frankly, I just think that Nestor and the people at the Boxing Voice were looking for something negative to say about Inoue, because what's the double standard? Most guys don't go the distance with Naoya Inoue. This is one of the few times that happened, so if you're implying there's a double standard in play, what is it?
What are you saying, that he shouldn't be rated top pound for pound? Because of the Picasso fight that literally just happened this morning.
So who do you recommend then, fellas? Who should be top of the pile? Here's what I think. If there's a double standard, it applies more to American fighters than foreigners, because you watch pillow-fisted fighters like Devin Haney,
Shakur Stevenson.
those guys win their fights by decisions all the time, so that if Inoue goes to a decision, now you want to complain?
Now there's something wrong with going to the cards. In Gervonta Davis's last fight, he brought up a smaller fighter in Lamont Roach up to lightweight, and it went to a decision. He didn't stop him. Inoue didn't bring up a guy from 118 up to 122.
He didn't bring up a smaller fighter and then it went to the cards. He was fighting a bigger, younger fighter at what was his fourth weight.
Just seems to me like these guys were waiting to say something bad about Inoue.
That he went the distance with Picasso, that he didn't stop him.
Give me a break, Nesta.
Now back over to what is supposed to be the Junto Nakatani fight next year. Everything that happened earlier today was intended to be an appetizer, a precursor that segues to the big Japanese showdown, but Inoue's answer
Is it me, or did it sort of seem non-committal?
saying that they will see what they do in the coming year, and it will be something good. If it's gonna be Junto, why not just say it's gonna be Junto?
I saw a quote from Junto Nakatani post-fight that was a lot more direct than what we got from Inoue, that he changed his weight class to aim for Inoue. The obstacles have been removed. I see no reason that they shouldn't fight next. Understandably, Junto laboring with Sebastian Hernandez maybe took a bit of the air out of the tires for the Inoue fight, though all the same, it's still the biggest fight to make at super bantamweight.
Is there any chance it doesn't happen? Because if it doesn't happen, who does Inoue fight next? He's basically cleared out the super bantamweight division. He's fought all the somebodies that were there.
Does he move up?
That if he's not fighting Junto Nakatani in May of next year, is he gonna move up to featherweight? Maybe fight Nick Ball or Angelo Leo? I'm not sure, because having gone the distance in his last two fights, and he himself not being satisfied with his last performance, that would make now less than ideal to move up to the featherweight division.
I don't know.
I feel like Junto Nakatani and Naoya Inoue boxing on the same card back-to-back, one fighter in the co-main and one fighter in the main, it allowed us to get a closer look, an even closer look at who's got what and who brings what to the table, that there is a noticeable disparity in speed between Inoue and Junto. Inoue is a bit older, though noticeably faster, noticeably sharper, more accurate.
Junto's super bantamweight debut was nowhere near as explosive as Inoue's. Remember, Inoue moves up to 122. He's fighting a champion right away.
And he stopped him, where Junto didn't get the knockout in his super bantamweight debut. After having seen both men fight back-to-back on the same card, I feel a bit more confident that Inoue can handle this assignment, that he can beat Junto Nakatani.
Because Nakatani looked human with Hernandez?
Not really. It's not just the Hernandez fight. Sebastian Hernandez fights nothing like Naoya Inoue, so a fight with Hernandez is not an insight into a fight with Inoue. It's the other things.
It's not the Hernandez fight.
It's because Inoue's body of work is a lot more diverse than what you get from Junto. A talking point I brought up several occasions in the build-up of this weekend show, that Inoue has seen punchers, he's seen brawlers, he's seen boxers, he's seen tall guys.
He's seen southpaws.
He's seen more fighters like Junto than Junto has seen fighters like Inoue. There are no fighters like Inoue. Comparing their opponents, David Allen Picasso's physical dimensions are pretty close to Junto Nakatani's. He's a tall guy, he's a long guy, so is Junto.
So that if Inoue is so confronted with another statuesque fighter, he's not in uncharted territory.
But who is it that Junto fought that bears any semblance to Naoya Inoue? I can't think of anybody. You know, if his power didn't carry up to 122 like Inoue's did, that's another asterisk. That's something else that's working against him, because Junto's power was a big part of the reason you started to see people picking him to slay the monster, to beat the monster.
I don't know if those same people feel that way right now.
I'm feeling a lot more comfortable going with Inoue to win the Nakatani fight if the Nakatani fight happens. The question is,
Is it going to? Because I reiterate, Inoue's answer when asked about it seemed non-committal. Evaluating the card.
Well, as stated, I've got serious reservations about billing a fight as a pay-per-view at the most inopportune time of day, the crack of dawn, for Americans that don't normally watch the lower weights. You're taking a set of fighters that we never had to pay extra to see, then charging us extra and telling us, well, if we subscribe to the ultimate tier, we'll save money. But we're only saving what you're charging us, and what you're charging us, nobody used to charge us before.
This is not progress. This is not boxing moving in the right direction. You're alienating a large portion of the audience that might have actually watched this if it didn't cost them extra.
Now, you could argue that Nakatani versus Hernandez definitely delivered, that fight was a Fight of the Year candidate akin to the Lester Martinez versus Christian Mabili fight. It was that kind of fight.
It was fun to watch. There were ebbs and flows and thrills.
But that fight by itself, as good as it was, doesn't justify charging us extra to see a fighter we never had to pay extra to see before. Inoue in the main event, where we've seen that fighter in some of his biggest fights, bigger than this weekend's fight, in the Fulton fight and the Neary fight, some of the most significant fights of his career that didn't cost us anything extra, so you can charge us to see him fight a 45-1 underdog, a guy who didn't win a single round the entire fight. It doesn't make sense.
Not an overly critical guy. I'm not often racking my brain thinking up negative things to say, ways to complain, but I have to be honest that having to purchase an Inoue fight left a bad taste in my mouth because I never had to do that before.
And having to get up at the crack of dawn to watch it, it just doesn't make sense for an American audience. So I don't know what decisions are being made over there, and couldn't someone have told Turkey that for the absolute nothing you're gonna get from America,
Americans are not gonna buy this show, especially not at that time.
you may as well have billed it as a regular fight as part of a regular schedule, because you're not going to sell any pay-per-views with this one at these weights and at that time.
That's my critique.
I don't often have to criticize what decisions Turkey LL Sheikh makes, but making this a pay-per-view, that was a mistake.